Israel's air assaults in Gaza have sparked protests right across the globe. In London, demonstrators gathered outside the Israeli embassy on Monday. Riot police were dispatched to control the crowd. A few hundred vocal protesters waved placards and Palestinian flags. Police blocked off streets surrounding the embassy building. Traffic in the area was brought to a standstill.
Zimbabwe's president says only the people of his country can force him out of office. His comments came after the US and Britain announced they would not support a power-sharing deal that included Robert Mugabe. Zimbabwe is in the midst of a cholera outbreak, an economy that's in free fall, and a government that's frozen by political instability.
Since Obama has chosen Senator Hillary Clinton to become the next U.S. Secretary of State, the question of who will fill Clinton's New York Senate seat is enthralling U.S. politics right now. Carolyn Kennedy is interested in the job, but questions surround her qualifications. CNN has new poll numbers on that. Just over half of all Americans questioned in a CNN Opinion Research Corporation survey released Monday say Kennedy is qualified to be a senator. 52% say she is, and 42% disagree.
The coalition headed by former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina appears to be well on its way to a resounding election victory. Early results show them winning 245 out of 300 seats in Parliament. The main opponent locked up only 31 seats. This is Bangladesh's first election in 7 years. It follows 2 years of emergency rule.
It looks a little bit like a giant thumbprint in many ways, a close-up of a thumbprint, but it's nothing of the sort. It's not a close-up. It's stunning images of the Arabian Peninsula's empty quarter. Those are sand dunes down there. These pictures courtesy of NASA. The empty quarter is the world's largest, they call it a sand sea. It holds half as much sand as the Sahara Desert and covers more than 500,000 square kilometres. It stretches over a large part of Saudi Arabia, also Yemen, Oman and the United Arab Emirates.
For people in high places, gifts come all year round, especially for Condoleezza Rice. Dignitaries have showered the US Secretary of State with lavish presents, diamonds, emeralds and rubies. But don't be too jealous, as Zain Verji explains, there is a catch.
Bush administration policies are hated in much of the Middle East, but that didn't stop long-time Arab allies from adorning Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice with jewels fit for a queen, worth more than $250,000. In January, the King of Jordan showered the top U.S. diplomat with an emerald and diamond necklace, plus a matching ring, bracelet and earrings. The price tag, according to the State Department, $147,000. King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia topped that this past summer, giving Rice a ruby and diamond necklace, also with matching earrings, a ring and a bracelet, worth a dazzling $165,000. Just all that bling alone makes Rice one of the U.S. government's top gift getters. She even outdid the Bushes. The Saudi king gave First Lady Laura Bush an $85,000 sapphire and diamond set and gold artwork worth $10,000. The inventory, prepared by the State Department's Office of Protocol, also reveals more modest offerings. A $6 assortment of nuts and fruit given by the Dalai Lama to Mrs. Bush. Some that are downright odd, like the abs exercise machine President Bush got from the Prime Minister of Singapore. And a cute one, pillows with the names and pictures of the first dogs, a gift from the Japanese Prime Minister. They can't keep the extravagant gifts, just the memories. They have to hand in the expensive stuff in accordance with federal law. Zain Verji, CNN, Washington.
In Ohio, a team of doctors advances the evolution of a medical breakthrough. The United States' first face transplant was successfully completed during a marathon surgery in the last 2 weeks. Senior medical correspondent Elizabeth Cohen has this incredible story.
We have finally did it.
Her doctors call it the first surgery of its kind. A near-total face transplant was performed less than 2 weeks ago at the Cleveland Clinic.
I must tell you how happy she was when with both her hands she could go over her face and feel that she has a nose, that she has a jaw, and she has a full face in front of her.
In a breakthrough 22-hour surgery, surgeons transplanted 80% of her face. From a cadaver came skin, facial muscles and nerves, lower eyelids, cheekbones, upper jaw, blood vessels, arteries.
The patient will never look like him or herself, and the patient will never look like a donor or recipient.
The identity of the patient is being kept a secret, but we do know she suffered from severe trauma several years ago, and as a result is blind in her right eye. She couldn't smell or taste and had trouble speaking. Her sibling says in a statement, "We never thought for a moment that our sister would ever have a chance at a normal life again after the trauma she endured." In the coming weeks, she'll have intense physical therapy. Doctors estimate it will take 3 to 6 months before her nerve endings regenerate, and her face will begin to feel and work like her own. Elizabeth Cohen, CNN, Atlanta.
Many gay couples who want children are turning to surrogate mothers for help, but they aren't the only ones. An increasing number of heterosexual men are choosing to be single parents and using the surrogate option. Carol Costello reports.
Gur is just one of many single men opting to have children of their own, on their own. No mom required. It's becoming a daddy-baby boom.
Having a biological child was very, very important for me. It's not for everyone, but for me it just felt like if I was going to do it, that's what I wanted to do.
That's right. Gur's son is his. He's among a growing number of single men, gay and straight, paying women to carry their children. And it's slowly becoming socially acceptable. Singer Ricky Martin did it. He has twins now. Clay Aiken did it too, with no regrets, telling Entertainment Tonight.
I don't have a problem with diapers, and I don't have a problem with any of that stuff, so nothing bothers me.
The end result is priceless, but expensive. Men can pay well over $100,000 to fertilize a donated egg, then to have it implanted in another woman's womb. It sometimes takes several tries, but it's often the only way for a single man to have a child.
In some ways, in some contexts, there's some suspicion. A man wants to adopt a kid by himself, as though there's some nefarious motive.
Several states either ban or severely restrict adoption by gay individuals and couples. Jeff Walker knows that. He's single and gay. He tried to adopt and failed, so he turned to surrogates, and now he has 2 little girls. His only worry? The lack of a mother figure in their lives.
It's a tough question. I wonder myself. I task myself to make sure that I try to do things that I think a mother would do. I don't know, because I don't have estrogen, what a mother might do in certain circumstances, but I try to be more tactile and to touch more.
Now, it is true that single parenthood is stressful, especially when you're strapped for cash, but there is no definitive study that says single dads were any worse or better parents than single moms. In other words, dads can be just as nurturing as moms. Carol Costello, CNN, New York.
Well, have you ever imagined what life was like in ancient Rome? Now you have a chance to experience it thanks to 3D technology. Rome Bureau Chief Alessio Vinci takes us on a tour.
What the glorious Roman Empire looked like in the old days has been pretty much left to your imagination. Until now.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Colosseum!
Just a stone's throw away from the real Colosseum.
Step this way, folks, for your chance to peek into the Temple of Vesta.
Entertainment and history merged into a 30-minute interactive journey.
This little stone should give us an undisturbed view.
This is all fake. Starting with a replica of today's excavations, visitors can take a virtual tour of ancient Rome with some surprises. 3D technology allows visitors to walk through the hustle and bustle of Roman life.
It's the poorest part of Rome, where us ordinary mortals live.
Brave gladiators, give us a day to remember!
The sensation is like walking through a virtual time machine.
There is a real thing.
Olivia Menaguale is one of the partners in the project, but also an art historian.
So we're just an announcement to the classic tour that you should do, because here, that's why we are just 80 meters away from the Colosseum. We don't want to be detached from the real thing. We want to be part of it.
And through this wireless device, actually, the audio is in 8 different languages, right? Chinese, Russian, German, French, Spanish, English, right?
Italian at the moment.
Arabic, maybe?
Yeah, of course. Will be the next one, possibly.
Most of it, though, doesn't really need a translation.
And it's a thumbs down! It's death to
Alessio Vinci, CNN, in ancient Rome.
After 10 years of economic boom times, the global financial crisis has sent Russia's economy into a steep and painful downturn. And today, there's yet another setback. AP is reporting that sources inside the Kremlin told a Russian news agency that for the first time in a decade, Russia will run a budget deficit in 2009 as falling oil prices eat into government revenues. Now, that comes as the country's central bank devalued the ruble for the 3rd time in a week.
U.S. carmaker Chrysler is shutting down all of its manufacturing operations for at least 30 days. Production at 30 plants will come to a halt starting this Friday because of dismal sales it blames on tight credit conditions. The closures come as Chrysler, along with General Motors, seeks a federal bailout to stay afloat.
Well, demand for metals has fallen dramatically in recent months. On Wednesday, Rio Tinto announced aggressive cost-cutting measures, revealing the depth of the problems in the mining industry. But there is a small ray of hope for a metals bounce back. Jim Bolden reports.
There has been a dramatic fall in steel demand in nearly every market around the world, even China. So while steel prices have plummeted in recent months, demand has shrunk. You might think some companies would be buying up steel at such low levels, but construction projects are drying up and companies were actually buying too much steel when prices were rising.
People bought in steel in the expectation that if they waited till tomorrow, it would cost them more. But then prices peaked at about the end of June, and prices started falling, so people started living off their stocks and not placing new orders.
So steel producers have cut production, some by a third. And that means they need less iron ore from miners like Vale in Brazil, BHP Billiton, and Rio Tinto. In light of falling demand, Rio Tinto vowed Wednesday to cut its massive debt and to generate cash by cutting 14,000 jobs and selling assets. Already deferred, the development of a giant iron ore project in Guinea, West Africa. The company will soon announce other long-term projects it'll put on hold.
Rio Tinto haven't actually said which projects they're going to cut, quite tellingly. I think they're leaving that until next year because they do want to be in a position to start pumping out the iron ore and the copper when things do recover.
Rio Tinto says demand might start to recover in the second half of next year, but that could depend on a Chinese stimulus package reigniting that country's growth. A possible return to the recent good times.
At the moment, iron ore is an extremely profitable business for Rio Tinto. I mean, the prices of iron ore have gone up every year for the last 5 years, and they're more than 4 times what they were just a few years ago.
Those prices were an indication of the economic bubble that burst this year. Rio Tinto's drastic moves on Wednesday, an indication it feels the global slowdown is getting worse. Jim Bolden, CNN, London.
Let's look at the global credit crisis, specifically at the credit part of the equation. Some businesses in Hong Kong would rather you keep your credit cards in your pocket. As Eunice Yoon tells us, there's nothing that speeds up cash flow like cash itself.
Going on a trip for the holidays? At this travel agency in Hong Kong, Simon Howe and his staff are offering promotions and low-cost tours to would-be travelers. Just don't ask to pay using one of these.
We will tell the passengers if they want to join the tours, they can pay by cash, pay by check. Of course, they cannot use the credit card anymore.
Howe's reason for rejecting plastic? Because some retailers here say banks, unnerved by the sweeping financial turmoil worldwide, are hoarding cash, delaying payments made on personal credit cards. Despite global efforts to ease the financial crunch, banks are looking to minimize risk. Lenders are scrutinizing new applicants and dumping riskier cardholders to help stave off a possible credit card crisis. Cosmetics retailer Louis Chang says card issuers are also making plastic less attractive for businesses to accept.
Normally it would take about 14 days for us to get paid by the bank. Now some of the banks don't pay for 30 or sometimes 90 days. That affects our company's cash flow.
Right when businesses here are already struggling to ring up sales in a recession.
The government is urging banks to be more flexible with small and medium-sized companies to ease their financial burden. But many businesses still think that the authorities aren't doing enough.
We hear a lot about what the government proposes to do, but so far I think they're just lip service. The government should really exert more pressure on the monetary authority, which in turn should exert pressure on the banks themselves.
Banks contacted by CNN declined to comment on this issue. Hong Kong has one of the highest credit card penetration rates in the world. The average person here has 2 cards. But some people are starting to rethink their habits.
I prefer to use the cash instead of the credit card.
And in these uncertain financial times, you can never go wrong with cash. Eunice Yoon, CNN, Hong Kong.
Will you do me a favor? I think the paper got stuck in the copier. Can you help me fix it?
You are right. It's got a paper jam. Do you see a flashing light that indicates where the jam is located?
Yes.
Then open the machine. Here. Release the latch and pull out the drum. Then pull the paper very carefully.
All right.
You ran out of paper in that paper tray. Make sure you load some paper before you make a copy.
I see. Thanks a million. Hello, this is Heather Johns calling from the marketing department. Could you put me through to a technician?
What seems to be the problem?
Recently, my computer is running very slow, keeps freezing, and automatically shuts down and turns on.
Chances are you have picked up some virus.
What should I do?
First thing you can try is to update your antivirus software. If your system is still unstable, you'll need to back up all your data and let me know. I'll go over and take a look at it.
I'll do it. Thanks.
Receiving the endorsement from the King, Thailand's youngest Prime Minister in 60 years takes power. A career politician, Abhisit Wejjijiwa received an elite education in Britain, attending Eton College and Oxford University with future British leaders. He also maintains a keen interest in English soccer team Newcastle United. At the age of 27, he became a lawmaker in Thailand, rising to the top position of the Democrat Party. takes office at a turbulent time. Political chaos has gripped the country for months, with protests against the government climaxing with an occupation of Bangkok's international airport. Some 100,000 tourists were stranded, and the airport lost more than $1 million a day. The government fell last month, opening the door for Wejijiwa to build a new coalition and returning his party to power after nearly 8 years in opposition. Prime Minister, thank you very much for joining us and congratulations. What was your reaction when you realised that you'd won the vote?
Well, it's been a tight race, and I know everybody was focused on the competition. But I think what's really has been on my mind is that, you know, we have incredible challenges ahead of us. Here we were, you know, in this political crisis for 2-3 years now, and Thais are suffering economically. And then you had the bad images that are going out around the world concerning Thailand. So really what's been on my mind are these challenges. And obviously the moment it dawned upon me that it would be my prime responsibilities to face these challenges, you know, that's really the feeling of it's a tough road ahead.
Let's talk a little bit about you as a person. People outside of Thailand may not know much about you. You're very young for a Prime Minister, you're 44 years of age. Do you think that that is something that's positive, that you can bring youthfulness to this role? I mean, your critics would say you're lacking experience.
Well, I hope that at my age I will have the energy and dynamism to deal with the challenges, the huge challenges that I've already mentioned. As for experience, well, when you know that I've been in politics for 16 years, that's a long time.
Your critics would say that you have got to where you are because in part of your youthful good looks. Some people say you're even a sort of sex symbol in the Thai parliament. How do you react to that?
I'm sure the Thai electorate are more sophisticated than that.
So I want to talk to you about the protests at the airport and the real political turmoil that has gripped Thailand for so long. A lot of people say that you were implicitly or tacitly backing the PAD.
We had a common cause in terms of fighting injustices. We don't always have common objectives. For instance, when they suggested that a new political system should be put in place with some appointed officers, we disagreed. And certainly our methods are different. And I expressed opposition to the way they decided to occupy both Government House and also the airports. That was very clear.
Thaksin Shinawatra and his allies would say, look, we're the most popular show in town. Any way you cut it, irrespective of any electoral fraud, we would still win a landslide
Well, I ask you again,
majority.
why have opinion polls put us ahead of them?
Or why don't you call an election if you think you're going to win?
Because at this time, people expect a fast recovery of the economy and to stabilize the political situation. And now that we've got a workable majority in Parliament, we should use that majority to work for the people and address their concerns as best we can.
Can you reassure them then that you promise you will hold an election within a year?
I can't put a time frame to things, but as I said before, if the previous two governments with even bigger majorities couldn't last because they couldn't deliver what the country expected of them, if I don't deliver, I won't be able to last.
When you were in Chuan Nikpai's government in 1997, the country was facing terrible financial crisis. There are some parallels. Is the crisis now potentially as bad?
In some ways, people say it's worse because we now have a twin crisis. One in terms of the effect of the global financial crisis or economic crisis, but also we have our own internal political crisis to overcome. And, you know, you cannot solve one without solving the other. Unless we bring confidence back that politics is stabilized, I can't see how we can win back the confidence to make the economy grow. On the other hand, if we cannot manage the economy well, that only sets the scene up for further political and social troubles.
My special guest is Alec Baldwin. You might recognize him from his Emmy Award-winning role on 30 Rock or his numerous appearances on Saturday Night Live. And now, his mugs on bookshelves. He's the author of A Promise to Ourselves, A Journey Through Fatherhood and Divorce. We'll talk about that and lots more tonight. You have such a great career going on right now. And yet every time I see you or I read about you, you say, I can't take it anymore, I'm sick of it, and I'm getting out of the business. Why do you want to quit?
I think you can't do the same thing
But it's different all the time. You do theater, you do movies,
maybe I would do
television.
that. But I think that doing things that are very public gets to be tough. I mean, I've done this for a living since 1980. I did my first job on a soap opera, and I've done it. And the other difference for me, at least it feels like it's different, is I've worked a lot. Like a lot of people get a lot of breaks, and they take time off, and they make a lot of money, and they go and travel, and they go to. I don't do that.
Tell me about your time at Saturday Night Live, and with why do they keep asking you back? Because you're funny.
I mean, I enjoy it. I enjoy doing it. Yeah. But I think that we were talking before about how. Off camera, you and I were talking about, like, how do you make that kind of decision to do this kind of a show? Yeah. Like, how did they find you to do The View? How did that happen?
I was doing a freebie for Milton Berle's birthday party, and Barbara was there. And I got up, and she didn't laugh at anything. Everyone else did. And one time I did an audition for Lorne Michaels, and he didn't laugh either. And he said, he said that was very funny. And I said, well, you didn't laugh. Right. And he said, I don't want you to think you got the job.
Now, was The View already on the air? But was The View already on the air with Barbara, or they were casting the show originally?
In the process of it.
You were in the original cast?
Yeah. Me and Star Jones and Meredith Vieira, Debbie Matenopoulos, we clicked. Right. But it has changed, as you can say. Right. So anyway, what about Lorne Michaels? Do you like working with him?
Well, the thing is that, Lorne is someone who... there are people who are very smart, as you know. You know a lot of people in this business.
He's smart.
And then there are people who are smart in a way that's useful in this business. I mean, some people in this business are smart, but it doesn't translate into anything in this business.
I'm interested also to go back to your family life when you were growing up on Long Island, with all those kids around, and it's like a thing of the past, that sort of Irish Catholic family, really a lot of kids. The Italians did it. They don't do it anymore either.
Well, as I say sometimes, I think I wrote this in the book about my dad. I said, I came from one of the last generations where people had a big family on faith. They were going to find the money, and they were going to find a way to raise all their kids. And, my dad was someone who was a very hard-working guy. He was a really tough guy.
And what way was he tough?
Well, he had 4 sons, and he had no money. So some of the people we grew up with...
Do you want to have a big family? You still have time to have a big family.
No, I don't. I'm 50.
So what?
I would love to get married again. I would love to have more kids.
Say?
That would be I'm saying if that happened, that would be great. I love kids. I love their lack of pretension. I think I love kids. The more I'm in this business, the more I love kids.
Bobbi Brown may be known for her popular line of makeup products or best-selling books, but to a growing army of women, she's also part fashion consultant, part talent agent.
I've been involved with Dress for Success since 2001 when I heard, I went to one of their breakfasts and I heard, some amazing stories and great speakers, and I sat there listening and I just said, you know what, I want to be here. I want to help. The things that I do for my customers are the same things I could do for these women and help them really, get confidence, feel good about themselves, and get back to work.
Women like Zoe Shepard, who first got help back in 2002. Tell me how you met, when you first met.
I first met Bobbi Brown when I was chosen to do a photo shoot for Dress Barn for an upcoming fundraiser that Dress for Success was having.
And you were looking for a job at that point?
At that point I was in between jobs, so it was really quite a break to be able to help out the organization that assisted me in getting on my feet.
Bobbi Brown's involvement in Dress for Success is hardly skin deep. They say in 7 years, she's raised more than $1.5 million for the cause and supplies each woman with a Bobbi Brown starter kit. DFS now has more than 80 affiliates worldwide.
I think that a lot of women have such worry about how they're going to pay the bills, how they're going to, support their kids, how they're going to eat. they don't think about themselves. They don't think about, what they're eating. They don't think about their clothes, their makeup. It's the last thing on their plate. So when we are teaching these women that we're tough. Us women are tough. We're tougher than the men. That's right. And you know what? And we actually have, the ability to make ourselves feel good. We can go out and help ourselves and help the people around us.
I think it's always the intimidation factor that I don't know what to do and I'm not sure I can afford to do this. That would be the big stumbling blocks, no?
No, definitely. I mean, you want to know, A, that you could do it quickly, that you have the products in your hand, and you just want it to really make you feel good. That is really the secret for all women. And there's a lot of people right now who are looking for jobs. And so, it's very important to make sure that when you walk in the door, that people see the real you.
First, we want to introduce you to Maria Ruiz. Several times a week, Maria leaves her home in El Paso, Texas, to cross the border into Juarez, Mexico, bringing food, clothing, and toys for hundreds of poor children and their families. Here's her story.
El Paso and Juarez, Mexico, they are known as the Twin Cities, but you cross over the border into Juarez, you notice the difference. In 1996, I came to the outskirts of Juarez. When I saw the poverty level that they were living in, my world changed completely. I'm Maria Ruiz, and I crossed the border to help people in Juarez. I decided to start the food program. I fed approximately 1,200 kids on a daily basis for 3.5 years. Now we collect the donations, we take furniture, food, toys, almost about anything. We're ready to go. Crossing the border involves a lot of work and time.
Do you have any food items?
I've crossed, it's thousands of times. We give out whatever we have. Buenos días! It's like a distribution center. All of the work we do is part of the family's ministry. But regardless of whether they're Christian, it's equal for everybody. I don't consider myself a hero. I know I can do much more.
Now, this year's Grammy Awards are taking on a new twist. For the first time ever, the nominations for the Music Awards ceremony will be announced in a special pre-ceremony ceremony. It comes as viewing figures for awards shows across the board sink. CNN's Corinne Winter takes a closer look now at the trials and tribulations of the music industry.
While the auto and banking industries have been lining up for federal bailouts, the music industry has been busy bailing itself out.
We've seen CD sales drop, mostly due to peer-to-peer file sharing, but that revenue has been made up in other areas.
From 2000 to 2007, CD sales plunged 36%. There were lots of mergers and layoffs, while battered record labels, agents, and artists scrambled to find a new business model.
Record companies now are looking more toward digital services, mobile services, to make sure that the big pot of money is shared more broadly.
During this same period, concert sales soared from $1.7 billion to $3.9 billion. But now, artists are finding it's much harder to pack stadiums, since many fans are struggling to afford the $75 or more on a ticket.
I'm like everybody else out there, with the exception of maybe Madonna and Prince, who we get used to looking at a 3/4 full house. But, I'm grateful for that.
While brick-and-mortar record shops are closing down, Borders, Best Buy, Target, and Walmart are among stores that have signed distribution deals with such superstar acts as Aretha Franklin, AC/DC, and the Eagles. Interestingly, there's more music in the marketplace than ever before, in movies, TV shows, video games, and ad campaigns.
Every 6 months, some new way to sell or license music is being invented, right down to opening up a magazine and seeing an ad and hearing a piece of music embedded in a microchip the size of a hair there's a license for that.
Novel ways for record companies and publishers to make money in this new ultra-competitive marketing era. Corinne Winter, CNN, Hollywood.
A 23-year-old Mexican beauty queen is among 8 arrested outside Guadalajara, Mexico. Laura Zuniga and 7 men had been traveling in vehicles allegedly laden with weapons and cash. On the left in this picture, you can see Zuniga during her days as a beauty queen. The right shows her after being arrested. She and 7 others will now face arms charges. Zuniga is reportedly set to represent Mexico in next year's Miss International contest.
For job hunters in the current U.S. economy, it's all about standing out. One California woman is doing her best by walking around Los Angeles with her resume printed on a T-shirt. Kelly Kinney says it's a necessary step to get her credentials in front of potential employers.
Well, among all the bad financial news we've been having, there is something of a sweet spot. Cocoa prices have surged to a 23-year high in the UK. London futures for the commodity have risen more than 70% in the past 12 months. It's not necessarily due to comforting cups of hot chocolate brought on by recession blues either. The main cause of this spike is thought to be dwindling supplies of cocoa.
British beer drinkers are tipping a pint to the maintenance of a tradition. After a long debate, the European Parliament ruled that Britain can stick with the pint measure and other imperial measurements. That removes a 2009 deadline to end the use of imperial measurements alongside metric. Many feared that pubs would be forced to serve beer by the half-liter. The decision is welcome economic news to companies that do business with the U.S., which still uses imperial measurements.
Let's take a look at your forecast map. We're not going to be seeing much of a change in the forecast over the next several days. What is happening is an area of high pressure is dominating to the north, and that means we're going to see clearer, cooler conditions in the region all the way to the Korean Peninsula. Down towards the south, this stationary front is going to keep things fairly wet over the next several days. Vietnam is going to be seeing quite a bit of rain shower activity over the next couple of days. We could see some localized flooding for them.